In this special episode, Dr. Vikash Raj, the founder and CEO of Investigen.ai, sits down with the industry veteran, Mr. Ajit Menon, the CEO of PGIM India Mutual Fund, to discuss how AI, behavioral science, and human centered advice are helping and reshaping the way we plan for retirement.
Ajit, thank you for being with us. You have been a veteran in the mutual fund industry, and PGIM Mutual Fund has been a leading player in mutual fund. What's your vision about the future of mutual fund industry, along with the technology which is coming up?
So, firstly, Vikash, thank you for having me. I have seen your journey, and I wish Investigen all the best. But coming back to your question on how I see the vision for the mutual fund industry, the prospects for the mutual fund industry, alongside how the technology is playing out with it as well, I'm very, very bullish. In fact, probably more bullish than the reports that the industry circulates from large consultancies about what the potential is likely to be. The way I see it is that, in the last 10 years, I mean, and when I say 10 years, I'm taking the period of 2014 to, let's say, 2024, we've had the mutual fund industry grow from something like 10 lakh crores to almost 68, 69 lakh crores, almost 6 times. And what has run in parallel is really India's per capita income, which was about $1,000 at that point of time, is now almost $2,400. And as you can, and my contention is that this move, I mean, all the way from 1947, from our independence to 2014, India's per capita has grown and just reached 1,000 at 2014. But in 10 years, it's more than doubled, right? And that's seen, the effect in the financial markets as well, as consumption, saving, and investment patterns have increased. And we've seen industries like the mutual fund grow from 10 lakh to almost 67, 68 lakh crores. The prospects for the per capita income, as many reports suggest, I would say that if India is growing at a nominal rate of about 11 or 12%, will probably double in the next 5 to 6 years. And when that happens, I think the surpluses that will enter the mutual fund market in just a period of 5 to 6 years, you will probably see what you have seen in the last 10 years. So the quantum of what is possible as flows to the industry, I'm very, very positive about. It'll be captured in mutual funds, in other areas of financial products. Even the alternates areas is growing quite well in the affluent high net worth segment. So I have no doubt about the prospect of the growth of the industry and all the players that are part of it. But I also think that those who will take advantage of those incremental flows that are coming in, or the existing flows that are coming in, will definitely have to have a very considered strategy on the technology side of things. And it's got to do with the fact that the consumer is also quite friendly with the technology that is out there for people to explore what are the options, to transact, to experience their investments, to review it, to monitor it, to make changes. All of that is a new phenomena, and it will only keep growing in terms of its influence. So I do think that the part that technology will play, it'll act as a force multiplier, according to me. So while there are innovations happening on the financial side, we've seen UPI. Earlier, when I started my career, we had to get 12 checks signed for an SIP, put it into a box, and then make sure every month, it's being, submitted at the bank and things like that. Today, it's automated mostly. So there will be further developments that will happen. And like I said, now you have UPI, and we see how our lives have changed. So some of these things will be force multipliers in terms of attracting more of those savings and investments into the mutual fund industry. As a conclusion, I would say that, to me, the most important factor that will continue to support the financialization in India is the fact that we have a central bank today which is an inflation targeting central bank. So this is new. This is since 2016. And the mandate for the RBI is to make sure that inflation in India, the CPI inflation that affects consumers, is controlled within the 4% plus minus 2 range. And that, therefore, would be very beneficial for financialization as lesser money would potentially go to hard assets like gold and real estate, which react very positively to higher inflation. But if inflation is in control, financial asset categories tend to do much better. And therefore, I think that aspect in India will continue to drive financialization and therefore benefits for the mutual fund industry. And like I said, technology will be the force multiplier.
Great. So, Ajit, you have also been very vocal about the technology, behavioral science, artificial intelligence, and mutual funds. So, how do you see these three interact with each other and the convergence lead to a better investor experience and maybe distributor enablement as well?
You're right, Vikash. I mean, I've been a big vocal proponent of behavioral science more than anything else, and definitely a follower of the improvements and enhancements happening on the technology space. I think there is still a lot left for things to integrate. I mean, while there is a lot of use cases for technology, and there is also a lot of use cases in practice management for advisors when it comes to behavior science. So, using behavior science to help their customers, understanding of behavior science to help their customers. I do think that things are progressing in the direction where more and more consumers will adopt technology and AI tools when it comes to advisory or managing their money. Advisors will obviously adopt, and clients will also adopt that technology. But the importance of behavior science is that I do think that much of what we know about the history of our industry, it has always been on the basis that man is economic, which means man is rational, and that if you put 5 mathematical choices in front of them, they know what to choose. Whereas economists like Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler, who won Nobel Prizes for behavioral economics in 2002 and 2017, respectively, they have come to us with the theory that man is emotional, not necessarily all rational. And therefore, the importance of psychology, the importance of emotions in investment outcomes and in the process of investing is extremely important. Now, how well will technology be able to integrate with this is where I think there is still a bit of a question mark, in the sense that it does a lot of tasks well, very efficiently, very productively, but there is a need for emotional intelligence to be embedded along with AI, which will then bring it to the much closer to what a human advisor is able to do with their client. The ability to be empathetic, the ability to be vulnerable. I mean, these are things which build trust between a customer and an advisor. Customers do trust technology. Many surveys will tell you that customers trust technology, but for the aspect of being more error free, right, and more fast and efficient. Does it really meet their emotional connect? Is still, I think, a question mark. But I do read about enhancements and improvements in technology, and effective computing, as I read, is already on the horizon, and there's a lot of advancements that can happen to that. As many of these things come together, I think that it will change the way that advice is given and taken by both advisors and consumers.
So the advancement in behavioral science and artificial intelligence has been such that artificial intelligence is able to identify the psychology of an investor. And most of the time it find that the investor is more anxious about the outcomes, and understanding the psychology of the investor would help the advisor to better provide the solution which he is looking at, and the solution could be very, very personalized. So do you think artificial intelligence jointly with behavioral science can equip an advisor to do a better and more personalized service and solution to the investor? So your thought on that?
So, two parts to it. One, you talked about artificial intelligence being able to understand the psychology of the investor, and the second is advisors being able to use artificial intelligence in helping their customers in a more efficient way. On the first part, I doubt that AI by itself will be able to understand the psychology of the investor as it is today, in the sense that it is, large language models and machine learning, and all of what you have essentially is looking at data. And I think one of the negatives, so to speak, about this is that AI continues to have the same biases that it sees in the data itself. So if there are human biases in all of the data that a machine is reading, the machine will also have outcomes which have biases. So that's something which one will have to guard against in the first place. And when it comes to behavior science, Vikash, my thinking is that, while an understanding of behavior science about what affects consumers, what is recency effect, what is loss aversion, what is herd behavior, how overconfidence affect people, all of these things are important for advisors to know. Um, and therefore use as much information that they can to nudge customers in the right direction. The solution may lie somewhere in the design itself. So it's not just understanding of behavior science, it's not just using AI. It's how do you bring these together to design something which is personalized, as you said, for a consumer. Default options are something which are very powerful. For instance, I mean, if you think about, as I went to the earlier example of SIP, there was a time when we had to write out all of those checks and make sure that they are banked at the right time. Today, you do an SIP in 3 clicks, and then it's a perpetual SIP for a period of 30 years or more. Now, that's default design. That helps people to save more, and we've seen how SIPs have grown as these technology features have got integrated. So I think that more leveraging of default features, which mutual funds have a beautiful array of features. It's not just SIP, right? You have SWP, for instance, for withdrawal, for any purpose, especially for things like retirement. You have things like top up SIP, which are automatic escalations of the savings that you're doing. I think it's about how you can use the understanding of behavior science and then use AI to make sure that when you're personalizing for the customer, you have those features and designs embedded which automatically nudge people for the right outcomes that they require. You may not solve it 100%, but I do think you must make an attempt to use it as much as possible, because at least research says that that's what actually helps customers reach a particular outcome. As simple as having a lock-in. We somehow feel that a lock-in is not good for consumers. They need the flexibility. But when you're thinking about long-term investments, and we know the current behavior of customers, which is that they get anxious, they redeem, they get in, they get out, so they don't end up getting the same returns that we seem to claim for long-term, then I think a lock-in feature is great. If you're looking for a long-term investment and you don't need it for 5 years, a retirement fund with a 5-year lock-in works because you're staying the course. These little design features are very important to take care of behavioral biases. How AI can personalize it to each individual would probably be the area for advisors to look for.
So you have been talking about the long-term investment
Yes.
practice of the investors, and you have been very focused on the retirement aspect of
That's
the
true.
financial planning, and you have got a dedicated section on your website where you have lots of tools and technology already available on the website.
Yes.
So when it comes to retirement, I believe that it's an anxiousness which drives and which hurts the investor more rather than anything else. So on the anxious inducing industry, what is your outlook on what all utility and technology and solutions will an investor look at, and what you can provide on your website, which will solve the aspect of reduction in anxious inducing aspect of the retirement?
Well, I wish there was a magic bullet. There isn't, and but you're right. The subject of retirement has been front and center for our team at PGIM. We are the only MC which does a lot of primary research about retirement readiness in India. We have a certification course for retirement, understanding retirement, for our advisors. We have built a lot of content and calculators specific to retirement. But I think when you come to the subject and when we talk about anxiety and you talk about helping people to reduce that anxiety related to retirement, I think there are a couple of things that one needs to understand. One is that most people, when they invest for happy goals, which is why they're so happy putting money aside for children's education or children's marriage or buying a house or a car or going for an international vacation. If you think about all of those, they're very happy goals. When it comes to retirement, for a lot of people, it's not a happy goal, because the visual picture in their head is about, what do I do when I have hung up my boots? What, will I still have the same respect? Will I still have the same purpose? Will I be in good health? Because I've seen people in retirement have, various ailments very soon after. So there are many unknowns and many unknown variables that give people a lot of anxiety. So, as I said, when people think about investing for happy goals, one of the first things for people to reduce anxiety, in a sense, or rather not have the investment outcomes that they would desire, is to first make retirement a happy goal. Think about what that retirement is going to look like as where you're going to follow your passions, where you're going to monetize your skills and your passions, and you're able to contribute in areas that you love, you're passionate about. And when you're doing things in the area that you love and you're passionate about, you tend to not think about time, and you can do that for as long as you want to, which is how, for instance, professionals and entrepreneurs think, right? They don't think of retirement like the service people. They love what they're doing, they love their business, they love their profession, they're likely to continue it into their 70s or 80s. It's people who are in the service industry, who are working and who have a 9 to 5 job, who have this issue of, I want to stop working, I want to retire quickly, but hey, I'm anxious. Will I have my corpus? Will I be able to live out my life, with the money that I have? So first is make retirement a happy goal. Reframe it in your mind as financial freedom. So whether you're 30, 40, 50 or 60, everybody wants financial freedom. So one is to reframe the subject of retirement in your head as financial freedom, something that allows you to pursue your passions, even make money out of those hobbies and passions. That's number one. Number two is the insight that we have as a team, that the real risk as far as having the corpuses required for your retirement, the real risk is that you're able to earn money just from one skill, right? You have a career of 25, 30 years and you've pretty much done one thing, whatever it is. You're a technology guy or an engineer, whatever you may be. And I think the secret about not being very anxious about the money part is, do you have one more skill from which you can make money, right? And I think that's a powerful way of thinking of it. And it's not that difficult when you start thinking about it. For instance, everybody can teach, right? So maybe there's a way that you can teach something that you love or you like. Your own subject and your own skill can be taught, or there are areas that you love that you want to get into and then teach there. So teaching can be easy. Many people love fitness and are following health. Maybe they can certify themselves as fitness trainers or yoga instructors and earn a bit of money doing that. So there are many such hobbies and skills that can actually be monetized. And our advice to people is, have one more skill from which you can make money other than your primary job and your primary skill from which you're making money. I think that's the second aspect as far as reducing anxiety related to retirement is concerned. And the third is that it's very difficult for people to keep the discipline of sort of putting money aside for the long term. Again, because it's very vague. There are too many moving parts to think about what may happen in the future. And at PGIM, there is, as you said, we've written content, we've built calculators. We call it a 3-bucket calculator for people who have a corpus and want to invest it for their retirement, and how they can make that money last longer than traditional kind of solutions. We sort of have all of those on our website as well. But I think most important is this mental aspect of retirement. The way that we would like to think of this, it's not a 100% answer, but it's something that people can think of, is to anchor yourself on an image that you see in your retirement or for your retirement years, right? And then work backwards to fulfill it. And just to give you an example, you could probably have an objective to say, my wife and I are going to run a 5-kilometer marathon together at 90, right? Now, if you imagine that you and your spouse are running a 5-kilometer marathon at 90, that objective helps you plan everything that you want to do to get to that point. Now you start having some sort of a purpose or some sort of a goal that you have in your mind, which you want to do. Or you want to have a startup and a business, you want to give back to community, you want to see 1 million trees planted, by some time. Having that purpose is extremely important. For me, for instance, I have a financial planner. I plan all my goals. It's been doing that for 15 years, for retirement and all of that. The way that I've asked my advisor to plan is that, my image for my future is that I want to dance with my granddaughter at her wedding, right? That's the picture I have. So if I think about that picture that I want to dance with my granddaughter at her wedding, I know what I need to do, how I want to lead my life, how healthy I need to be, what are the things that I should do, shouldn't do, and get to that goal. But having a picture in your mind of that future is very helpful to at least anchor yourself to something so that you can plan yourself towards that goal.
Great. So it's a great perspective, Ajit, I must admit. And you are talking about the anxiety management. And I believe anxiety management, if we have to do for a person, it has to be personalized nudging to a person, understanding his psychology. So you have touched upon the behavioral science aspect of it. But to create a scale for an advisor to be able to do it at a scale for a number of people, I believe the generative AI, the advent of generative AI and conversational AI, which has
Yes.
come up,
Yes.
it will help a lot in understanding the person, even if he has not completely explained himself. The generative AI
True.
has the ability to understand it and suggest what could be the next nudge which an advisor should give it
Yes.
to the investor to manage these things. And this could be handled very easily with artificial intelligence.
True.
So my question to you is, are you trying to leverage the generative AI of the artificial intelligence to manage the anxiety, understand the anxiety of an investor when it comes to long-term goal planning? And what are your thoughts on leveraging generative AI to solve and give personalized service to large number of people and make it completely democratized?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So I think first off, Vikash, you're right. I think that the uh, the point at which AI and generative AI and whatever we know as all the new technologies that we are seeing today, I think where the real value of this for consumers is that personalized advice was really available only to a small segment of people who have the money, the affluent or high net worth or ultra high net worth. It was very difficult for that level of personalization to happen for mass retail. And I think the big advantage of the advent of all kinds of AI tools, including generative AI, is that you can, as you said, democratize advice for a much, much larger segment of people, and advisors can use that to reach out to much, much more people. Now, to understand their anxieties, for instance, using AI tools for risk assessment, for budgeting, for their income, for their goals, for their risks that they think about. I think that one of the strengths of the new technologies is that it can think in a non-linear fashion. Now, mostly in conventional advice, an advisor thinks about budgeting and planning, and it's all a moment in time review, whereas technology can really make it real time. So you can look at data, in the past. You can also use analytics in the moment to make sure that the customer is being nudged for whatever the customer has as queries or questions or anxieties, to nudge them for the right kind of decisions at every step of the way. And as I was telling you earlier, that my image in my head is dancing with my granddaughter at a wedding. I mean, advisors can use these tools to nudge customers to think and visualize their retirement years or their future or their goals. And generative AI can play a big role in giving them those anchors of images that can easily help people to stick to that goal. Because as you said, the key is, can people stick to that goal for so long? And all of these tools will definitely come in use. We have ideas of where we want to use it and how we want to use it. It's not something that we have taken to immediately, but those are all part of our plans as part of building that retirement ecosystem, both for advisors and consumers over the coming period.
So you rightly said that technology could help a lot, but normal perception among the people are that AI, technology, and behavioral science, these are things which are not meant for me. This could be meant for somebody else, but not for me. And people are normally trying to shy away from adopting technology, taking the help of AI, taking the help of conversational AI, believing that it will require lots of data which Indian environment will not be having. So they are trying to shy away from technology. So my question to you is, people, especially the advisor community who's listening to this podcast, what is your suggestion to them when it comes to operating at the intersection of technology, AI, behavioral science, investments, and utilizing the entire gamut of this intersection to provide a more scalable, more personalized
Yeah.
service to their customers? What's your thought and suggestion to the community?
See, to me, in all of my 30 years of career, or 27 in mutual funds, and my understanding and my relationships with advisors across the country tells me that you can basically divide most advisors into two buckets, right? There's one kind of advisor who loves financial planning, who loves meeting people, helping them about their financial futures, talking to them about their anxieties, helping them with solutions, and therefore for them, it's a hobby, not a business. And for these advisors, therefore, they're very happy as long as they're able to manage 100 households, 100 families, or 200 families at best. And in the second bucket, you have advisors who aspire of this not just as a hobby, but to make it a business, right? When you want to make it a business, you want to scale yourself to as big as you can get. So while technology can help on both sides of both these buckets, I do think that adoption of technology is very, very important to the second bucket, where advisors are thinking of it as a business that they want to scale, and they want to, reach out to many, many more people into growing their business. Because once they've figured out that what are the kind of segments of customers that are most suitable to them, then these technologies can help them identify, as well as to not standardize, I would say, but all the standardized risk management processes can then be personalized to each of their clients in that segment. And that's where the scalability can come from if they're adopting some of these technologies. The other aspect, for instance, is vernacular. For a country like India, the ability of these tools to instantly translate the content that you may have or the things that you want to do in vernacular is not so easy to just do it independently. But these tools are very useful, that can do things in vernacular for your customers. So that's another area where it can happen. So this aspect of democratizing advice, being able to scale your business for those advisors who look at it as a business and not a hobby and want to grow it, I do think that there are advantages for them to adopt it, not to overwhelm the customer, but to personalize, to be able to use things like vernacular if where it is required, on the kind of content that they send and the nudges that they need to do. And the third aspect is, as I mentioned a little earlier, that AI is able to think in a non-linear fashion. So there is almost a continuous assessment that an AI can do, consent based, of course, and there's a lot of regulations around data and data use, but they can do a lot of analytics around what is the consumer's income streams, consumers' expense patterns, and automatically optimize the kind of savings that they need to do, or nudge them in the right directions on the kind of products that they would need to have more of or less of in their financial plan. It's almost like having a continuous risk assessment happening alongside as well. So looking at their expenditure patterns, income patterns, their risk perceptions, almost on a continuous real-time basis rather than at points in time, can probably help optimize a lot more. And there's enough research to suggest that robo-advisory and fintechs who are using AI has definitely been able to give far better outcomes than just individuals. But at the same time, there is a flip side to it, to say there's a lot of bias in some of those recommendations as well. And the fact that some of this doesn't have the kind of emotional intelligence that human advisors bring into it. So I think there will be a scope for scaling on the technology side for sure. And there will always be a scope for advisors who look at this as a passion and who have the sort of need to do this for just a small 100 or 150 families that they may wish. I think both of them will be able to survive well.
Great. Ajit, I know you for close to 20 years now,
Yes.
and I find you always to be slightly ahead of the curve when it comes to adopting new things. And I know that I've come to know that you are trying your hands on exploring leveraging generative AI to solution the retirement planning aspect of it. And retirement planning, as we have already discussed, it's lots of anxiousness inducing phenomenon there. So, what all aspects of anxious management, behavioral science that you are trying to solve leveraging generative AI in your retirement planning endeavor on your website and
Yeah, I
on
think we
your
spoke
stuff?
about some of it earlier. And I think, why this is important for us is because when you look at all financial goals, you look at, children's education or marriage or buying a house or buying a car and retirement, starting a business, going on a vacation. There's so many financial goals that people have. The fact is, retirement is the only financial goal for which you don't get a conventional loan, right? So when people invest, if they fall short of some money for their children's education, you can take an education loan. If they fall short of money for a house, they can take a home loan. There's a car loan, there's a business loan, there's all kinds of, there's no retirement loan. There's reverse mortgage, which is not a very mature product in India. So the importance of focusing around retirement for us comes from this aspect that retirement is a tough subject. It's a subject for which you don't get a conventional loan. You've got to do it yourself. You need to prioritize it as well. So what we are doing essentially in while we're trying to use as much of technology as possible, and there's more for us to do because as we operate within the prudential ecosystem, we are also looking to a parent because they're one of the largest retirement players in the world. One of the reasons why I chose this brand to work for and for my team. And so there's a lot of information and support that we get from our parent organization as well. And we're waiting to see how many things can be integrated in a way that we do it. In the meanwhile, we've already got resources. We've got Retire Mantra as our new section of our website, a new web page altogether, where we have brought together all our thoughts around retirement and content and videos and calculators together in one place. And when you talk about reducing anxiety for the long term using generative AI, we're still in the space of understanding what can be the best way to sort of do that. As I told you, visualizing what that future can be. How can you support people on a step-by-step basis? Those are things that we are trying to see, that how can we bring solutions into retirement using technology and generative AI, which nudges people not once a year or once in 3 years, but when they look at their savings and investment that they're doing, we integrate things which allow them to stick to that path for their long-term investing and motivate them in a way. I would say that that's probably the right word. How can we keep motivating people to continue to make sure that they are adding to that savings for long-term retirement? Nobody wants to be dependent on their children as much anymore compared to earlier generations. And the beauty is that it's not difficult. So we want to be in that space where we want to tell people, you don't need that anxiety to on your retirement. There are ways to do it. We published a 50 gigs report where we talked about the different hobbies that people have monetized and how well that monetization, even if it's small amounts, can be very, very powerful for your investment. So just to give you a quick example, many people think that, hey, you know what, whenever I go online and I read things and I say that, oh, you're supposed to have this big corpus for retirement which will last you at least 25 or 30 years, but I think my money will be lasting me only for 10 or 12 years. Now imagine for those 10 or 12 years you're doing something which is very small and you're earning 20 or 30,000 rupees out of it, not your 2 lakh salary or 3 lakh salary or 1 lakh salary, just 15 or 20 or 25,000 rupees out of it, maybe by teaching or doing whatever that these hobbies, as I meant, the 50 gig report that we've put up on our website can do. If you just put that aside for those 10 or 12 years that you think your corpus will last, you will already have a corpus by the end of it which will be big enough for you to continue further. So there are ways and strategies that people can adopt. We're trying to bring all of those content together in one place, use technology to make more tools actually to help people understand. We are close to launching a behavior-based tool which will allow people to understand their own money personality type and use that money personality type to really put their focus on areas that could be their strengths and also to fill the gaps which might be their weaknesses. So those are all plans for 2025, and I'm looking forward to bringing all that to the table.
Okay, my final question to you is, there are lots of people who are nearing their retirement and they're anxious about it. Some of them are overwhelmed as well from thinking about it. What's your suggestion or thought which you want to pass it on to them?
See, I would say that a lot of the anxiety is because one doesn't know the number that is required. Many a time people are searching, what's the number that I'm supposed to have, right? It's also because one doesn't realize the aspects of mental health and physical well-being that you will require into your later years as well, because medical inflation is high and you want to try and take care of yourself the best. Now, therefore, there are these many moving parts that people get anxious about. And my first advice to my friends and family and colleagues have always been, get yourself a financial advisor, right? The first thing is, get yourself a financial advisor, somebody who's experienced, somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who you like from their risk management process point of view. Ask them the questions of how they would advise you for your retirement and how the customers that they're handling have dealt with their retirement funds and their retirement plans. I think that's the probably the only advice I would love to give people, that don't have the anxiety, talk to a professional, talk to a good advisor, and you should interview 2 or 3 advisors so that you're comfortable, you find the comfort that you want with the person in terms of how they're thinking about it, how they'll be able to help you, the sort of technologies that they can, all the systems that they actually use, and the experience that other customers with them would have had. And once you feel comfortable with the way that they can manage money, their risk management process especially, I think that will take away almost all of your anxiety. It may not take everything away, but it will take away most of it at least. And that's probably my final and usually the only suggestion that I give people when they're thinking about retirement planning.
One follow-up question to this. There could be people at far-flung areas where they find it difficult to find a suitable advisor. Will there be any utility or tool on your website which will be able to help them achieve, if not completely, but a maximum part of it through
My guess is that, whether it is PGIM's website, and because we have our focus on retirement, obviously there's a lot more on our website, and that's what we intend to do, is that they can definitely start off by learning better, using calculators, listening to the videos or tools or the content that we have created around retirement. And at the same time, like I said, since we have a retirement certification program for advisors, we have more than 400 advisors who have sort of done the certification, and we intend to continue having more people exposed to that program. And we hope in ways to connect those advisors, depending on the location, to people, because many of these people can do that advice online, and they can have a good conversation with people. Just in case there's no physical presence, I'd always love to have a physical presence somewhere close to. So hopefully, as we build up this ecosystem around retirement and we look at our partners who have done the retirement certification, who want to do the retirement certification going forward, I think we will sort of integrate all of that on our website for people.
Great. Thank you very much, Ajit. I think this conversation will be very, very useful.
Thank you for the opportunity, Vikash. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.